Hello all, I'd like to thank you and welcome you all to today's webinar, especially after the massive engagement on Sunday night's webinar. So today's webinar, our title of our webinar today is Demanding a Directive on Health and Safety Grounds. So on the next slide, we're going to outline the agenda for today. It's going to be very short, just 10 minutes approximately. So we're going to introduce who we are. We're going to issue our press release. We're going to issue our task for today. And then we're going to just talk about the next steps, and then that'll be it. Be very short and sweet. So who is GLOR? There's been a lot of talk about who GLOR is. So on the next slide, we'll talk about what GLOR de Vuntori are. So GLOR is a group of active union members, INTO primary school members. They want to empower others to use existing union structures to effect change and protect our working conditions, including health and safety in the workplace. So why did we form GLOR? There's a lot of questions of that. So we formed GLOR to encourage INTO members to become more involved in our union. We want INTO members to become very active. We're not anti-union in the slightest. We're all really active INTO members here. And we really want to get involved and listen, get active feedback from our union leadership. And we want to keep primary teachers informed. So on the next slide, we'll be discussing the press release. I'm going to hand you over now to Joanna for the press release.
GLOR are calling on all members to contact their local and national INTO reps and TDs. Now more than ever, we need to pull together as a union to protect the lives and health of staff, students, families, and their communities. One of INTO's main aims is to safeguard and improve the conditions of employment for its members and to promote their interests. Without the ability to organise collective action, our union's hands remain somewhat tied in protecting its members while in talks with the government. Therefore, we ask the INTO to ballot on the option to engage in industrial action should members' health and safety be put at risk. SEN children in Ireland have long suffered the absence of necessary support such as consistent occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech and language, psychologists and respite. Schools have done their best to fulfil these needs to the best of their ability, and the closure of school buildings has highlighted further the struggle of families with children in the SEN category. GLOR recognises that children with SEN and their families need support at this time, but wish to do so in a manner that is safe, sustainable, and avoids further sudden changes or uncertainties. INTO members continue to work very hard to cater for all pupils remotely. Teachers are very willing to return to in-person teaching when it is safe to do so for staff and for students. Currently, contacts are not being tested. We feel it is unsafe for tens of thousands of teachers, SNAs and pupils to return to school buildings. The safety webinar, called for by the INTO and organised by public health professionals, did not address teachers' concerns. There is a very large disconnect between what these professionals believe schools look like and what actually happens in the school from day to day. The data used during this webinar was outdated and therefore irrelevant. It does not correlate with what principals, teachers and SNAs are seeing on the ground every day and left many questions unanswered. Teachers left this webinar very frustrated with the conflicting advice offered and no new advice or supports offered. Teachers will continue to advocate for and support all pupils with SEN, as they have done for years. However, GLOR now calls that the return to school for SEN pupils on the 21st of January be postponed, and teachers continue to work with these pupils remotely until such a time as the community transmission rates lower, testing of close contacts resumes, and safety issues are satisfactorily addressed. No one wishes to engage in industrial action. However, we feel that our hand is being forced by the lack of health and safety considerations for staff, students, and by extension their families and communities. So we ask you please to ballot to protect them. We sincerely hope that it will never be needed, but intend to protect members in any way we can. We need to band together to protect everyone in schools and ensure that when school buildings reopen, that it is done with clarity, consideration, and safety for all concerned.
Thanks very much, Joe. Brilliant. So we're just going to talk about now what we can do to enact this change. So I'm going to hand you over now to Joanne, and she will discuss what we can do.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, firstly, well done to everybody on the great engagement over the last couple of days, but we've a little bit more to do on this. So we know you've all been sending emails, and just to let you know, it won't be possible for your CC reps to get back to you today because, as well as being in meetings last night, they have their full-time jobs and then they're meeting again this afternoon. So you're not being ignored. It's important you know that. But the only way left now is for us to sign a petition, to get an online petition going, to get the message out there that yes, we all want to be back in school. We're all missing our children greatly, but we only want to be back when it is safe for us, for the students and the families. So it's really important we get that message out to the community that we can't have our health jeopardized. So I am pleading with you all to sign this petition and share it far and wide with every teacher you know in the country. And I'll pass you on to Jana now. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. If we could just go to the next slide, this is what we're doing for our next steps. And actually, what we might do is we'll show you the change.org webpage so you know what it looks like. It's very simple and we'll talk it through. So sometimes when you can get links to surveys or data gathering, it's not always clear who is gathering the data, and that can be problematic. And we've made it very clear here that this is our grassroots activist group who are calling for this action, for ordinary INTO members to plead with their CEC reps to issue a directive for our health and safety. So the only information that we have on that page is exactly as Kevin read it earlier on. We have a little blurb about who Glór de Bhuinteoirí is, why we formed and what we are asking for. So if we just scroll down the page there, to the bottom, it has what we are calling for. And it says, we, the undersigned, demand that the INTO Central Executive Committee issues a directive to all its members to continue remote learning to protect health and safety of staff until such a time that a 2/3 majority of INTO members feel it is safe to return. It would be very important when signing this petition that you don't only include your name, you should also include the district of the INTO where your branch is. So for example, if your name was Joe Blogs, you would sign as Joe Blogs and then district 11, 12, 13, whichever one that you are in. And if you are unsure of which district your school falls under, you can use the CEC search app. You can type in either your school address or your school name or your roll number, and it will automatically tell you using information from the Department of Education what district your school is part of. Okay, and it's very easy to navigate. So do include that in it. And if we just go to the final slide there now, time really is of the essence for taking this action. As Joanne mentioned, the CEC have been thankfully inundated with emails to the point that they're probably not actually able to even click into all the emails for this afternoon, let alone to respond to them. So, you know, power in numbers, an injury to one is an injury to all. This change.org petition is probably the quickest way that we can gather momentum on this and spread the word. So we need as many INTO members as possible to sign this. And we're hoping for really to send it to our CEC reps by 4:30. So we have about an hour to send it to them. Send it to any individual teachers you know. Send it in any WhatsApp groups that you're in that are education related. You might be in Facebook groups such as the SET support group who joined us in our previous webinar. You might follow Instagram influencers. I know that that's a growing community. I'm probably a bit too old to be taking part in it myself. And yeah, and individuals that you know. So as we underlined at our previous webinar, and as we always underline in any of our communications, we are here to look out for each other. It does not matter, for example, that I'm teaching in a mainstream school and that I'm currently in mainstream. It is so important that we stand together, you know, to support our current SET teachers and the families that they serve. The current plan is not serving anyone, and it's causing huge anxiety to the families and to the staff involved. An injury to one is an injury to all. And I suppose the final thing that we would all agree on, and we've seen this over the last couple of weeks, the schools that can only be as safe as the communities that we serve. And we actually have, you know, there's an onus on us to keep our communities safe. And that's you know, another very important aspect of this demand that we are pleading with the CEC to make. So we will leave it there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today and for your continued activism. And we will always be here to support you and to give support where it needs to be. So get sharing that petition.